Hello everyone, welcome. This is Megan. I'm so glad that you're here. In today's class, we're going to be painting a beautiful yin yang nighttime daytime scene fall inspiration. I was inspired by something that I saw online that would be really fun to do a nighttime daytime thing, and with foliage coming, I was like, let's do something fun and different. So when you have an idea with something, it's fun to take a minute to sketch it out. And this was my sketch. So it's going to be a yin and yang, which is going to be very simple and peaceful. And some of it is going to be nighttime and some of it's going to be daytime. And then we're going to use leaves and we're going to kind of put them all over, as much or as little as you want. But we'll have stars in the evening setting, and then we'll have some light blue sky in the bottom setting. So you can obviously pick and choose the colors that you want, but this is the inspiration, and we're going to be painting this together. So always really fun. So the supplies that you'll need for today's class is something to paint on. So I like using 11 by 14 canvas paper or acrylic paper. I have that ready right here. You also need paint of some kind, so you can use acrylic paint or watercolors, watercolor pencils maybe, anything that you wish in that regard. As your medium. You'll also need a pencil to do a little bit of sketching. I will walk you through some leaf templates that I have available. You can also go online and find another basic form to use, and be sure to look out for copyright and things. But for me, I found some that I really liked, and I'm just using the basic shape to outline, so I don't have to try to get it perfect. It kind of boosts your confidence along the way, so I think some of you might find that helpful as well. You need an array of brushes. You need a cup of water to rinse your brushes, and you need a paper towel for any messes. In addition, you'll need something round to trace your circle. So I have a couple different sizes here. I could do a big purple one. That takes up almost all of my canvas. So I could do that if I wanted to, or I could do it a little bit smaller and go with that size. Very interesting choice. Not sure. You could also go to your kitchen and get a bowl. Any size bowl would work, but you can kind of play with this here. No, I'm kind of leaning. How big would this big one be? I might do the smaller one just to kind of keep it simple. So one of the first steps of today's class is you're going to take a pencil and you're going to center your plate from top to bottom and left to right. And you're going to do a light outline. That looks pretty close. I'll be doing a light outline. You could also use this plate to mix colors too. How handy. And I'm doing a light pencil. I think I got most of it. Nope. All right. My pencil ran out on me. All right, as long as you can see most of it, perfect. I can see that here. Sometimes in these classes I use like a marker so you can see the lines. But as long as you can see your own outline, that's all that matters for today. Because we're going to be using a freehand in some of these other spots. So it's not going to be, incredibly perfect, but it's going to be good enough. Okay, so I have a nice circle here right in the middle. The next thing I'll show you is, as we get going through class, you're welcome to pause the video where you need it. I pre-cut out 2 leaf shapes that I'm going to use within my picture. This for me, I'm going to add some more fine points, but for me this gives me that symmetrical leaf shape for my painting. We're not doing these yet, however, I want these to be cut out and ready. So you can make these as big or as small as you want. I will include a template that I am using for the class if you wanted to use that. You can use your printer settings to expand the zoom or the scale of the picture that I send you. So if you wanted to make it 200% or 300%, you can make these bigger and smaller based on your printer, okay? So this is optional. You can freehand paint your leaves if you're really good at it, but I cut out a couple. There's also some other designs like these. And these were made by another artist. This is not my work, and I will reference that person in the class as well. Okay, so the next step is doing the yin and the yang. So in this instance, I want you to find, make sure you have a pencil that works well. And we're going to do the division between these two. So you're really just going to start at the top, and you're going to come out and down. And you're just going to have to eyeball it a little bit. I'm just going to grab another pencil really quick. All right. So it's kind of a larger area, and then it swoops down. So both sides are perfectly even and symmetrical. So I'm starting here, I'm looping down, and I'm trying to create the same angle. You cannot see this. Let me bring this in a little bit. Okay. Let me move some of these things out. There we go. So I just want you to use your eye. Use soft lines because you're probably going to have to do some erasing here. That's pretty close. I don't know how I got it so close on my first try. For me, it's not perfect. It is supposed to be symmetrical, but just take a little bit of time to kind of dial this in. This is supposed to be in the middle. So you can see that actually this part up here is much bigger than this, which means this line needs to come out a little farther. So I'm leaning back, and this needs to come out a little bit further. Bring this back in. So you see that you can play with our lines. And you want these to be nice and light. Part of this will be black, part of this will be light blue. And for me, that's a little too steep, so I'm just going to change it just a little bit. Bring it in just a little bit. So take your time just drawing this. This is, an important element. Lean back in your chair, maybe walk away and come back. Do they look fairly equal to you? And I love the meaning behind yin and yang. It's about finding that balance in your life between the busy and the peacefulness. I took an 8-week class on mindfulness, my last employer, and it was the most incredible thing ever. And the teacher talked a lot about, at the beginning, about yin and yang. And you know a little bit about it, here and there. However, it really means about finding balance. It's with all the positive and negative energies. It's a really amazing thing, but it's about having this balance in your life. And I love that for these classes, because these classes are here to help all of us find a little balance in our lives. So when you're drawing this shape, you're going to do 2 small dots as well, 2 small circles. So you can make them as small or as big as you wish. For me, I'm going to probably make it a little bit bigger. And if you wanted to print a circle to make a perfect circle, you could. You might have like a round something in your studio or in your home to trace. Even better if you have something round to trace. Oh my gosh, that's like precision. Precision is good in these cases. So that size of that circle down there is good for me. I'm going to try to do the same thing over here. And I want it to be fairly balanced, so I'm going to kind of put it over here if I can. And it's a little bit bigger than $50. Now I am eyeballing it, and I'm just trying to outline a circle. It's pretty close. We're just getting some basic sketching in. And then things will evolve and things will change. So these shapes are going to change. They don't have to be perfect. Just get the placement and the size down. And then we'll kind of make sure that the shape in itself is a little bit more equal. So I'm just looking at my sizes. This one still seems a little bit bigger. So maybe I'll just take a minute to make the bottom one a little bit bigger. It's a little bit better. And I'm doing nice light lines. One of these sides is going to be night and the other one is going to be day. So the top one for me is going to be black and the bottom one is going to be daytime. So I'm just looking at my shades. I'm looking at how big it is up here. I'm looking at how big it is down here. The spacing around this is similar to the spacing as this. So anytime during today's class that you need to make modifications or slow down, feel free to pause the video as you go. So for me, this is pretty close. I am going to put my pencil down and we're going to fill in the background next. So if you need a couple more minutes to paint or draw rather and get these sketches in, feel free to do that. I'm going to use the plate that I used for my circle and I'm going to start with a little bit of black. And I'm just going to use a medium-sized brush. So we're heading into some easy parts. So again, before you move on to painting, have a basic circle, have your separation line, your divide, and then have your two circles here. That's all you need to be able to move on with me. So pause the video if you need to. So now we're going to, with a nice clean edge, you can pick which one you want to be night and pick which one you want to be day. And I like working my way around the edge first. Obviously, try to stay within the lines. You can use the flat side of the brush or you can use the big side of the brush. And we're not doing our leaves yet. I have a good amount of paint on here. I want this to be nice and solid and black. We also want it to dry, so don't have it be too goopy, but just do some nice solid brush strokes. If you need to do a second coat of black paint, that's totally fine, you can. Plenty of time to do that. Try doing long, smooth brush strokes. I'm kind of paying attention to the edge of the brush as I work my way around the edge of a subject. This white circle is going to be a white moon, which is going to be really pretty. We aren't going to paint anything around, I'm not anyways, around the exterior of this picture today. If you wanted to do other things on the exterior, you can. I'm just not going to focus on that in today's class. I'm following my way around. You can always clean up this line too, like if you go over it, don't worry. And as you get to the point, you're going to want to switch brushes and use a smaller brush to get down in here. But you can fill in the rest of this first with a bigger brush. Do nice, smooth, rounded brush strokes to fill this in. Nice and calming. And let it dry, and then you'll know if you need a second coat or not. All right, I'm going to get a smaller brush really quick. Any size smaller brush you have will be fine. Something that you feel comfortable, you can get into some of those nooks and crannies. Down here, if you need to use your pinky to stabilize your hand, you may. If you need to pick up your canvas or lay it flat or post it up, you can do that. You'll figure out what's right for you here. But these are all the background layers. And I'm so excited to watch this painting evolve with you. It's going to be beautiful. I have a vision, and we'll do it here together. All right. So it's getting there. We are not going to paint this black. So in a typical yin yang, it's black and white and black. We are painting this like a yellow, like a sun. So we're not going to make this black. But if you were doing a typical yin yang, you could. Okay, so this is drying. Go through and do your edging and then let it dry. If you wanted to take a minute and paint your sun yellow, it will help. It will give our black a minute to dry. And the reason we want the black to dry is because we're going to paint this side blue. And if we get near that black with the blue, we're going to have some really dark smudging going on. So we want our black to dry as quickly as possible. So even if it's like not finished and like done completely, don't worry. Just let this first coat dry. And we'll come back to it. Just do a first base coat. And I'm just finding a small brush of choice, any size that you want to paint the interior of this. A little yellow. It can be a light yellow. It can be a bright yellow. I'm going for a brighter yellow just because, hey, why not? This is kind of like a, and I can always change the color of this too. So fun. This is like a bright, I might say a bright mustard. All right. And we want our yellow to dry as well, so we can put our blue in. So it's a little bit of a patience game here as we do some base colors. The yellow should dry pretty quickly. All right, cool. So clean your brushes along the way here. Now the background color for this second half of our yin and yang is going to be a light blue, like for a light sky. My intent for the leaves are to have the leaves be like oranges and yellows and reds, like bright and beautiful, like all over. So you're going to start to see the vision kind of as we go. And we're going to tilt these leaves and kind of put them in all different directions. So for me, I want the blue sky with the yellow sun. I'm thinking about that intentionally. So I'm going to put a small dollop of blue and I'm going to put white on my plate so I can mix a light blue. You can choose any way that you want to paint this. If you want to do like fancy white clouds, you totally can. But start with a light blue. That might make your life a little easier. Any way you want to fill in that second area, feel free to do so. Feel free. This is where I will guide you throughout these classes, but I want you to follow your own intuition. If you have your own ideas, incorporate them along the way. I'm here to stay out of your way, but keep us focused on the steps to get through. All right. So I put some white on my plate, and I'm going to mix my light blue with my white. And I'm going to use my 1/2-inch brush. Half-inch flat tip. If you wanted to use a bigger brush, you can. Make sure this brush is nice and clean, like no black on it. Because if you have black on this brush, like I do, see that? It's not clean yet. Then it's going to be a darker blue. And for me, I don't want that. So I'm just going to do a couple extra thorough. There. That's a little bit better. It's pretty clean. Except there's some black at the bottom. So it's going to take a minute to clean that. Okay. So I'm going to take my blue and my white. I'm take a scoop of my white and bring some blue in it. Find a nice light blue color of my choice. You can go as light or as dark as you wish here. You choose a color that you like. You could get really artsy here and do white clouds, as I mentioned. Absolutely up to you. But there's my blue. Isn't this beautiful so far? Oh my gosh. Just wait. All right, so I'm using the nice flat side of this brush, and I'm going to go right along the edge. Try to stay within the lines. And make enough of this blue so you don't run out. Rookie mistake. I think every class we all forget to make enough. All right. This is a little bit lighter. That's okay. So with these big brushes, you can hold it on the side and see you have that nice flat tip. If you have a newer brush, you can really pay attention to the tip of the brush, the tip of the bristles, as you're rounding into budding this black space. See how that's a nice clean line? Beautiful. Oh, don't do that. So I'll come in with some white and I'll fix that. So I went outside the bounds here. Just take your time. Don't make mistakes like me. It will happen to most of us likely. All right. Having a good amount of paint on your brush as you're going around the black part. Give it a nice, thick, clean line. You won't see any of that fray. And do a nice, smooth brush stroke. You can see I'm working my way around. Filling this in. And you can start to see some of the day and night effects here, which is really fun. For me, I'm just doing a little bit of fact checking. Very nice. If your yellow is dry, you may go near your yellow. If your yellow is not dry, stay away because you don't want your yellow and blue to touch. If your yellow and blue touch, then you will get green. Your blue shouldn't go into your yellow, but if it does, it will turn green if it's wet. All right. So I'm just slowly, and if you need to turn your canvas, like pick it up and turn it, like that's okay. Some of you may have already done that. So you aren't tilting your whole body around and cranking it one way. It's like we're in charge. It's okay to turn your canvas. Okay, stay within the lines. Oh, I did it again. This is going to be a very common thing, apparently. I can't stay within a circle. All right, I'm going to go nice and slow around my sun. You can also change brushes, like if your big brush isn't working for you, find another brush to fill in. You can easily use white to touch up the edges. Okay, and you can see I have a couple different blue tones happening here. I have some light blues and some dark blues. Maybe do a second coat where you need to make it look all the same color. For me, I'm just making a consistent blue. I'm gonna do some nice smooth brush strokes as a second coat on the blue, just to add a little bit more. It's gonna be a little more fluid, starting at the top, swirling all the way down. Any way you want to fill this space in, feel free. Again, you're in charge here. We are going to put leaves on top, and I might put like little designs, like little fluttering leaf-like designs. I haven't decided yet. In my sketch, I have like little swirls kind of floating through the air. I'm not sure if I'm going to land with little swirls, but we'll see. We'll see how it goes. Might be like other leaves like fluttering around, like smaller abstract leaves. I'm not sure yet. It's okay to not know everything before you start painting. Okay, so we're doing good. I want you to make sure that your blue is painted in. I want you to be happy with the coverage. I use pencil and I cannot see my lines. If anybody can see their pencil lines, feel free to go and make some adjustments. I'm also going to clean my brush. I have a couple of blue that overspilled my edges because I'm messy apparently. So I'm cleaning the blue off that brush. And I'm going to go in with a little bit of white with a nice clean edge and fix it. And I have water on my brush, so it's not holding the white pigment as well. So make sure your brush is like pretty dry. Also, if you have a higher quality white paint, the pigment will help it cover it more easily. And you also want to make sure that the blue underneath is dry as well. So you might need a couple coats to kind of cover up any boo-boos. That's okay. You can kind of do one coat, let it sit, and then come back to it. Okay. So I'm going to go and do some black touch-ups while my blue is drying. So for me, I'm happy with my blue. Again, pause the video, take as much time as you need. I'm cleaning my brush. I'm going to go back to my black, make sure my black area is totally nice and smooth and even in all the ways. My black paint, it's not a super high quality black paint, so you can see some of the brush strokes. I don't want to see brush strokes, so I'm taking a minute to really make it look really nice and refined with a second coat. You can decide if you need that or not. And this second coat will really just dry right on top. So if you're applying it in certain areas and not in all areas, that's okay. It will all kind of blend together. We're going to put some galactic stars on top of this. It's going to be really pretty. I want you to be happy with the overall background colors before we move on to any of our detailed work. So take this time in the class to be happy with the black area, be happy with the blue and the yellow. The black to me is filled in visually now. I am going to do some white to really reshape my moon on my black, but I'm going to wait until everything is painted and done to do that. So clean your brushes as you go. Don't hesitate to grab some water for yourself. Make sure you take care of yourself throughout class. Take a stretch break, make sure you're breathing. And we'll continue on in just a moment. So we're going to do our white galactic stars next. And this is the messy portion of class. So there's two ways of doing galactic stars. There's a flickering method where you hold your fingertip and you kind of splatter. Now these are white stars. So if your white stars happen to get on your blue a little bit, you can kind of always paint them. Or you can paint over them if you want. And then there is like a dotting method for stars. And then you can also do like little like north stars or even constellations. So I'll show you the messy way first, if you're open to such. I grabbed like a medium brush. It's a small brush. It's probably like a number 4 flat tip brush. And I'm gonna get some water on it, and I'm gonna bring the water over to my plate into an area that is clean. And I'm gonna take a little bit of white paint. I'm gonna create a little bit of a water wash. So this is like a milky consistency. You want this, I'm doing probably 2 or 3 dollops of water. If your water is gray and your cup, don't worry. It's not going to hurt anything, I promise. You can see the consistency that I'm getting. The more water you have mixed, the lighter the stars will be. The less water, the thicker they'll go on. For me, I'm almost there. I want a little bit more water. So this was like 4 little dollops from my water cup. I feel like it's better to have a little more water than not so much. So I'm doing the flickering stars first. This is pretty liquidy if you can see that here. It's like a white water. So I have some of that on this brush. I'm going to use my index finger, I'm a lefty, and I'm going to come back and flick. And you can do as much or as little as you want. Happened pretty quickly. So cool. It got a little in my blue. I'm not worried about it. The other thing is the white got up here too. You can't even see it. So that's our nighttime sky. Take a few minutes to play with that. I'm actually quite happy with the small and a little bit of the little clumps I've gotten. I don't think I'm going to do too much more. I might do a little bit more. Let's see. Yeah, I'm pretty happy. Okay, so I'm going to let that be. I have some Milky Ways. Super cool. We're going to let that dry. Look at this like crazy Milky Way that I got up here. Pretty cool. There's another little Milky Way. If you wanted to take a paper towel and like wipe it off the blue really quick, you probably could. It might smear the white, but if you wanted to just do like a little bit of like with a paper towel, if your blue isn't too wet, mine's dry now, but you can kind of like wipe the white dots off the blue if you wanted to do that. And if you have a clean paper towel and you kind of like want to wipe around the edges, you could. You're not going to see too much of that, but if it bothers you, just do a little bit of a wipe. My paper towel is clean. Make sure your paper towel is clean if you're doing any of the wiping. Okay? Awesome. So I am going to let those stars dry. I hope you all loved that. It's so fun. I'll give everybody a couple minutes to add in like little other small star details if you wish. Like you could add a little bit of a North Star. You could add a planet. We are going to be doing a little layering with our leaves here. Just a little bit in the nighttime area. You can decide how much or little you want to do here. So if you want to add any extras like planets or any other like shooting stars, you can add that at this time. And you can use a teeny tiny brush. I kind of like what I have. I may not add much more because I have a pretty good coverage in the full black part of the area. I'm not going to touch the white center right here. I have some like stars going on and I'm just going to let it sit for a minute. And then this is where you can kind of look at your blue area. We're going to let the stars dry. It actually probably wouldn't hurt if you wanted to do your white moon at this point. I'm using like a number 4 flat tip brush would work well. I am going to take a little bit of white paint. You want your brush to be fairly dry. And do this part only when your black is totally dry because I want you to be able to kind of re-edge the moon shape. So it's nice and clean. I want you to be happy with the moon shape. If you wanted to have like a slight yellow tinge, you could mix a light yellow. I am saying with white, you could make it like truly look like a moon. I wasn't gonna like make it like have craters and stuff. But what you could do is if you wanted to add like a little bit of a light yellow or you could do like a harvest moon if you wanted to with like a little bit of oranges. Totally up to you. Turn your canvas if you need to refine your shapes here. Very important to turn your canvas as you go if needed. Okay, and you'll see how your moon shape will look a little different as you go. Right as you turn your canvas, it's like, oh, it's not perfectly equal. Excellent. So have patience with yourself as you refine your moon shape. And I like a nice bright moon. If I wanted to make like, I can put a little gray, I can make a little bit of a gray if you want to get a little crazy here. I can put a little bit of gray and do like little craters. I'm just being playful at this point. Did a little bit of gray inside. I like the brightness, so for me I didn't want to do too much of the gray. I did a bunch of gray, so I'm gonna let it dry and then I'll probably put a little bit of white back in it. So if you do gray and then white, the white is just gonna kind of smudge into the gray, so just give it a minute to dry. I'm using my finger to kind of smudge around. I'm not planning on getting too detailed with my moon here, but I'm just gonna let that dry and I'll probably come back in and maybe on half of it I'll make it a little lighter. Not too worried about that. But we are letting our scattered stars dry, which is really good. So we're gonna let our moon and our stars dry. Next, we're gonna start doing a little bit of outlining with our leaves. So the other side isn't finished. You're going to need your pencil again. And we're going to play with placement with these leaves. So the first place I'm really excited about doing leaves is I'm going to have a couple of like overlapping areas. So for me, that's important. So I'm going to do a leaf like overlapping between the two. So if you're going on top of your white stars, just be careful with your little cutout so it doesn't smudge them. So I'm just going to do my first one like over here maybe. And I'm going to do a little bit of an outline, a rough outline. And my leaf, and with a pencil it will stand out on top of all this. Now my leaf shape is just kind of the 5 points, because I can kind of add a little pizzazz from there. I just really wanted the overall framework, because these leaves have, there we go. I'll bring it a little closer so you can see it. It's right here. The leaves have their own points on them. And then I'm going to do some more leaves. So you can think about how many leaves you want to do with regards to styles. I'm going to do 2 styles just because I cut 2. If you wanted to just do 1 style, that's fine. I want you to find balance with regards to your leaf placements on your canvas. So you have an option here to keep your design within your yin and yang, or you could do overlapping, which is kind of cool. I didn't even consider doing overlapping. So I might do overlapping and come off the side a little bit. And I just turned the perspective a little bit as well. So I'm just going to trace this one. I turned my leaf. And you can always erase your pencil lines, but it at least gives you a little bit of placement on where you want to put your leaf. I intend to erase some pencil lines over here. So there's another one right there. So I have 1 here and 1 here. Now I want to be intentional of spreading these leaves out. So I might do another one up here. Kind of cool. So I am being mindful of where I'm putting these. I wasn't planning on doing the overlapping, and I am just being in the moment and following my intuition. And again, these leaf outlines are just giving me a little bit of confidence on like where to start painting. But I'm going to make them look nicer than this. So I put 1 up there. So I have 1, 2, and 3. And I'll probably do another leaf. Let's see. Maybe I'll turn one and do. So I'm almost at the point where I'm at an odd number. So, and they might be getting kind of big. So I might put this one. I also have to play with the direction of the leaves. So you can play with tilting it and where you might want to be putting it. All right, I think I'm going to put one here. I'm going to turn my canvas so it's a little easier to trace. Mine are tilting in all different directions. Kind of reminds me of an earth a little bit, which is interesting. I guess that's part of it, right? With night on one side of the planet and dark on the other. So it's okay, I suppose, to have your leaves go in different directions. You can keep your leaves inside too. That's not going to offend me if you wanted to do that. This leaf's really big for this lower space, but I need to put it down here. That's what my gut's telling me. So I might try to freehand and draw a smaller leaf down here, because for me, I'm going for an odd number. So I have 1, 2, 3, and 4. I do want to put a leaf here, but I'm going to do it a little bit smaller of a leaf. So I'm going to use this as a visual aid, and I'm going to try to draw a little one here. Sometimes even with something to look at, it's better than nothing. This one does not look very good, but it's okay. I'll make it look better. Okay, so I put a little one here. No worries. All right, so I'm gonna take my second leaf and I'm gonna do the same thing with the second leaf. You can decide if something is too big or too small. Maybe I'll layer it behind. You can choose. I like the overlapping from night to day in the middle. I think that's super cool. You don't have to do that if you don't want to. And no, I've never done a design like this before. I'm just living vicariously with you all. All right, and then I'm going to, let me just do another one over here maybe. And maybe I'll tuck this one behind. And if you don't like a leaf placement, guess what? You can always erase it. It's not the end all be all. I'm tucking this one behind. And I'm probably going to tuck this one behind up here, which means I'm not tracing all the way around the leaf. I'm kind of tucking it behind this other maple up here. So I tucked it behind. I didn't draw the right side of this leaf because the maple leaf is right here. I did the same thing over here where there's a maple leaf here, and I tucked this leaf behind. So I like the look of that. I lost my leaf. It fell on the ground. All right, there it is. So I'm going to turn my canvas and I'm going to tuck a little leaf over here behind this one. So I'm kind of drawing half of it, outlining half of it around, but so it pops out behind like that up there. And you might want to do like little flowers maybe tucked in. See how it goes. Don't worry too much. I did put like one of these leaves right here, so I might like freehand like another one on top of it. Not sure yet. I'm kind of going to do another one overlapping. Just figure out what you need visually for your picture to be balanced. There, that's better. I kind of have overlapping here. And 1, 2, 3, 4. I might do an overlapping leaf. Maybe a little one over here. So you can freehand some stuff too. You do not always have to follow your same shape, but turn your canvas. That will help you. Spin it right around. And I might do another little leaf over here. You can do 2 leaves. It doesn't matter. Okay? So we're going to start filling these in just a minute. But you're getting some groundwork going here. Okay. So I'm inspired to do like a reddish orange leaf, and then I'll figure out what I want my other one to be. I'll probably have a reddish orange and then an orange leaf, and then we'll bring them to life. So you'll need to make an orange as our next step. If you need a few more minutes to finish these drawings, feel free. Keep your pencil handy. You may need to erase some lines. So grab a small-ish brush of choice. I'm going to use this 4 flathead tip because it has a really nice fine edge on it. So if I need to get into some pointy spots, I think I can wiggle it in there. But feel free to use a smaller brush if you wish. If you have like a number 3 or a 4 fine point tip, you could do that. But I'm going to make a reddish orange. So I'm going to take a dollop of my red and some of my yellow, make an orange. A reddish orange, which might take all of this color. There we go. Find a color that you like that reminds you of fall and foliage. There's so many beautiful colors out there. So this is like a solid, juicy orange color. I'm going to start with this. because why not? And then maybe I'll do some red accents. So I'm going to do the basic outlining for these leaves first, and then I'm going to come in and do some detail work. You can also use the tip along the way to do like the fine point detail work if you want. You'll probably need a couple coats of paint. You might even need to add a little bit of white to this orange to get on top of the black. So you might need to put a little bit of white in your orange or in some of it for it to stand on top of the black. So you can see I just added some white to this just to really make it stand out. And I might do that in all my little black areas here. So like I might come over here. And you'll need a little bit of white to kind of hold on top of that black. See, I'm just getting some base coats down. Take a moment to do that if you need to, because you're going to paint right on top of that, but you can see how it's holding on top nicely. So it's a little orange and a little bit of white. I'm just going to do the same thing down here. A little orange, a little bit of white, and you can put it right on top of the blue too. It might help it hold out on top of the blue. So if you wanted to do your first coat with this lighter orange, may not be a bad idea. All over. And I'm kind of staying away from the edges some. I'm just spinning this. I'm staying away from the edges of the pencil lines because I want to add some of that like point-like detail, like that character to these leaves. And if I go all the way out to the edge of these leaves that I traced, I might run out of space. Like they might just get really big. So I'm being intentional. I'm going to paint right on these other leaves too, just to kind of start holding space. I'm being intentional just to kind of start holding, just for that spatial awareness. So you can see I'm just using this to kind of start covering it up, and you can see our picture's really starting to come to life already. We're going to make these colors much more vibrant. And in these classes, there's a little bit of patience built in, especially when you're painting on top of another coat, right? We're doing orange on top of blue, orange on top of black. You're gonna need a couple coats of paint. So just have a little patience. Know it's gonna take a few minutes for this to dry, for you to do these coats. I'm holding space in between these secondary objects. So this is like one of those pointy leaves I kind of drew in here. I left a space between this leaf and this leaf so they don't blend together. Right? I want to kind of hold them separate. If you want to come in with a small brush and play with the detail work, you can right now, because we're going to need that for before our second coat. So I'm just going to spin my canvas and just make sure all my leaves have a coat of this like lighter color, because we need that to proceed. We need that to stick and dry before we put more on top. And it might take a couple coats. It might take 2 coats. It might take 3 coats. So just be patient with the process. But you can see really how all of those leaves placements are really starting to evolve. It's going to be really pretty. Very, very pretty. So I'm going to switch to a smaller brush. I did basic coverage, and it's not perfect, but I'm going to go and do some of the detailed work right now with a more detailed brush. Perfect. So I have a smaller brush right here. Any one of like your newer, nicer brushes is good for this next step. You can pay attention to the leaf-like detail on the edges. So see how there's like these little pricks and points that come out? That's the detail I'm going to do right now, because I need that to be there. So maybe I'll even outline some of these leaves, because we need this coat, this base coat, to be here for all of our other pretty details, if that makes sense. So I'm going to outline each of these leaves, make them look real clean and pretty, work on those little pricks. And this is where I like working. I like looking at a picture for all these little, the detailed work here. And you can always pull up a picture too. So much detail you can put to this. You can also keep it really simple too. So you can do as much or as little here as you want. I'm here to not judge you. I'm here to support you on this creative journey. But the tips of these leaves are nice and pointy. I'll bring this a little closer for you so we can do this together. There we go. So I'm working with like a light orange color. It's kind of a peachy color, just so, again, I want some of that base coat. And the tips of these, see, I'm getting at some of this leaf-like detail. If you have pencil marks, don't worry. You can easily go in and erase them. But just focus on your leaves. Okay, so that one looks pretty good. I'm gonna let it dry. I'm not gonna touch it. I'm gonna move to the next one. Again, rotate your canvas. Look at that. So see how this is a really basic shape? I left some room in here to kind of play with some of this point-like detail. And if it's not all the same color, don't worry. If you wanted to start to bring in some of the other oranges and reds, you're welcome to. If you feel like it's gonna stick enough, you can. So use your own discretion here. If you want to start kind of painting and doing a second coat, since you're here, you can. But this is where everybody's gonna kind of go at their own pace. You can add as much texture here as you wish. There's like these little points on the underside of the leaves. You can leave the paint thick here if you want. Gives you a different type of a look. So you can see the texture there. I may or may not want that texture, to be totally honest, so I might just smooth it out. I don't think I want it. I think I want more smooth. So you can decide with what you want. For me, I might put a little bit of red in here since this is wet. Again, there's a lot of paint here, so you can always take your brush and spin the paint off for like paint management. So that's pretty, right? I'm kind of feathering in a couple different colors. Do one leaf, let it dry, come back to it, right? So I'm gonna say I'm done that. This leaf has lots of pencil marks around it. That's okay. This leaf here, I'm going to just use a little bit of white and maybe a little bit of a light orange just to paint it. I'll probably make this leaf a little bit more yellowy orange, but I'm not gonna do that right now. I'm gonna probably do all of like one style leaves first and then come back to it. But I do want to fill in that base coat, so that was an initial need that we are doing right now, is just doing the base coat so they can dry. But if you wanted to go in and be playful like I was here, you can. So you can figure out right now if that's the time for you to do that or not. But the base coat for that second leaf is now painted. So you can see how that leaf is really coming out. So this is where you take your time and you work your way around. This leaf just needs a nice solid base coat on it. And this leaf, I'm going to play with some of this leaf-like detail. Maybe I'll bring in a little bit of my oranges, a little bit of my reds. If you have a lot of wet white on here, it's going to smudge in, so you might need to come back to a leaf. It has a lot of wet white on it, or a wet like light orange. It's this darker orange and reds are not going to stick. So you might need to come back to this leaf just to share. Don't get frustrated, just leave it alone. So for me, I have some of that wetness and it's staying really light. I'm gonna leave it and come back to it because I need those base colors anyways. So I'm literally gonna take my picture and turn it and just keep working my way around. The points of these leaves are nice and pointy. They've got these little mini micro kind of points coming out. I don't know about you, but I find it much easier. I don't paint leaves all the time, so it's really nice having a starting point for the shape, just to kind of like keep us going and know that we're actually going to have a leaf-like shape. Not just like a weird triangle that doesn't look like a leaf, right? So it's good to kind of start with some basic shapes first where you might need it. And there's these like under points on the bottom side. Don't worry about the pencil lines. Again, you can always come back to them. Kind of lean back in your chair. Look at the 5 points, the underside. Just know you can come back and you can add more detail and texture. Just get some base coats on and then come back to it. It's hard to stop working on something, but when the colors get all smudgy, you kind of have to just let go and come back. But I am painting the base coat of this background leaf. We need these background rounded leaves to be painted because I'm going to put yellows and oranges on top, and I need this black basically to be covered up here. So it's a light orange now. I'm going to make that look a little different in a minute. So I have lots of pencil marks. I'm going to erase the pencil all at the end once all of the acrylic is dry, okay? Tips of these leaves are nice and pointy. They have some of those downwards. I'll show you my palette. I'm working from this like orange area here, and I'm bringing in like a little bit of white. So I'm playing with like an orange. I have a little bit of red here if I want to get a little crazy. This is the colors that I'm working with. And you can bring in, oh, I love that like pinkish orange color that comes in with the leaves. So pretty. We're just going base colors. We want to cover up this pesky black where we want there to be a leaf color. That's our goal. You can always change the color, but we want to get the shape nice and filled in. So for me, this is like a peachy leaf. It is not going to be peach. It's going to be beautiful and brighter than that. But I'm just doing one color at a time. And this is just a filler color. This is a little darker than the other ones. It's okay. It just needs to be painted over the black, okay? So again, if you need to turn your canvas, I have a couple of more vertical rounded leaves here. I'm just going to do a nice solid coat on these. Clean edges. Again, white is my friend here, so I'm using white and orange mixed together just so it's not pure white. You could also use a darker color in the background here, but sometimes the darker color, it's hard to see on the black. So if you wanted to use a darker backlit color here, you could. It's absolutely up to you. Like if I wanted to use black and a little bit of red, I'll just show you what it looks like. Maybe I'll do a little bit here. You could do like underlying colors if you wanted to. Like see, there's a little bit of darks in this one right here. So I did these two leaves. These two leaves are drying. I have one more set down here. So you can see how there's space in between my leaves, and there's a little bit of one leaf and another. So look at your picture and kind of confirm that you have the right amount of leaves. If you need to add more leaves, do that now as well. I think I'm happy, but I'm just going to finish this step, and then I'm going to personally kind of reflect on the number of leaves that I have and what I need to do from an else perspective here. What else? So I'm just doing basic coverage again for some of these leaves down here. Oh, this one has like some purples in it, so fun. I don't know. This is my free-handed leaf. It doesn't really look like, it's a little wild and crazy down here, up here, but we're gonna just roll with it. Okay, it's gonna be what it wants to be. That's all right. But I want to get the overall shape down so I can paint on top of it, right? And I did have another little leaf back here. I'm just gonna make it a little bit bigger since I kind of crowded it. I wanted a little bit of a rounded leaf in this area to match all of my other rounded leaves. Okay, so fun, right? All right, we're not done yet. All right. So take a few minutes. I know this can be really time consuming, but just give yourself a little bit of patience, a little bit of grace. Another thing I'm going to do is I'm going to put a little yellow on my plate. So this is where I want you to play with your color blending. Tiny dot of yellow. So for me, I'm going to maybe take a little bit of my yellow and a little bit of my orange. And this is where you can start, once your leaves start to dry, you can come up and you can start really playing with the final color of these. I'm going to do the red style leaves first, my red and orange leaves. I am using a little yellow. I'm just being playful because it's kind of lightening it a little bit, but play with the final color of some of these leaves. So if you want them more red, you could also make them a little more pink by adding a little bit of pink to them. I'm doing red, yellow, and a little orange on these leaves. And I'll bring this a little closer so you can do it along with me here. Again, don't worry about the pencil lines. We can get rid of those pencil lines. Okay, I think I'm pretty close to being happy with this one. I might make it a little, I might add a little bit more like red in areas, perhaps. Maybe on the underside, I'll make it a little bit more red. I'm not going to go too crazy though, but I'm going to turn my canvas and just go work on the next one. Okay? So red and orange. I want to be happy with my colors. I might bring in a little bit of yellow just to see what happens. I'm going to make the other ones much lighter, but it's fun to kind of dabble back and forth. I'm literally going between red and orange. See how it just got dark really quick? You can always bring in a little bit of white and make a lighter tone if you need to like lighten it back up if you need to. Just let it dry, and you can always come in and paint over something. Like if something turns, don't worry. Just for me, I'm just going to let this dry for a minute and I'll come back and I'll fix it. Okay. This leaf needs to be a little bit bigger, I think. The top of it needs to be a little bit bigger, maybe a little more wide. So you'll come to a point where you say, this leaf just needs to be a little bigger. I don't know why, but it just does. So you're gonna have these like little epiphanies, kind of like reshaping things along the way. It's all good. I do want to stick to really fine points, like little points at the end. So this leaf got a little big. It's okay, but I'm shifting and I'm gonna turn my canvas and go to the next one. This one down here is next. So see how they kind of match? It's my intent. Find a style that works for you. If you need to do another second coat, you can. I'm doing orange. Probably bring in a little bit of the yellow just to add a little bit of yellow in these ones. The yellow dissipates pretty quickly. Again, I'm not worried about pencil marks. I can erase those after. But I'm going to get a little bit of red along the way. Just bring in a little bit of a secondary color. While you're bringing in the red, it will start to blend with the orange, which is nice. It's kind of giving it like a natural two-tone look. Okay. So I'm happy with that one. I'm just gonna leave it and let it dry. So for me, I'm gonna turn my canvas. And now this one at the top needs a little bit of love. Sometimes for me tonight, or for today rather, it's easier to have my objects at the top, but you're gonna find a position that's best for you on where you want these leaves. So I'm gonna bring in a little bit of yellow, just because, you know. And I'm gonna bring in a little bit of red, and we're just filling this in. You can pay attention to the details and the points. You can always do more touch-up work, but this is just, it's good to kind of get in here and give it a little bit of love in this instance now. Always touch-up work, right? Sometimes we iterate and iterate on our art here. Excellent. I'm just going to let that dry. Again, I know I can come back to it, but you can see how all these leaves are starting to match, right? That's the intent for me. And I'm going to come in and give a little bit more love to this guy right here. This one's pretty close. He needs a little bit of yellow. Just a little bit. And has some orange, but needs a little more contrast. So, and you can always switch brushes at any point. Some of you might have a really fine tip brush. Mine is not like crazy fine tip. It's good enough, but there's a lot of brushes out there, and you can use whatever you wish when you paint. Okay. So, look how cool this is so far. I'm going to let all those red leaves dry. I'm going to come in and probably do some more detail work, like outlining, to really make them stand out. You could use a black fine point pen to outline those leaves. That would look really cool. But I'm going to paint all these other leaves an orangish yellow. But I want to mix that color first. So like, what does that color look like? And I'm going to let those other ones dry. So I have an orange right here. And I have yellow. I got to figure out what color I want these to be. I want them to be lighter. So I might mix orange and yellow together first. And if at any point, like you're not here and you don't want to do this part, you don't need to. But I'm mixing orange and white and yellow together to kind of come up with a little bit brighter of a tone. Ooh, I like this. It's kind of like a light orange. And I want it to stand out. And then maybe I'll do yellow accents on top. So I'm going to start with this color. It was yellow, orange, and white mixed together. I'm just going to start painting these in. Now, I like this color personally. And you don't need flat colors when you paint. So you can pick one starting color, and then you can add another color to it, which is really neat. Can anybody guess what my secondary color is? I'm going to add to it. I'm going to add more of a yellow. So see how it's orangey? I'm going to get a little crazy and take a scoop of yellow and just bring some yellow in to create a little bit of brightness. And I could leave this thick texture in here if I wanted to. I'll bring it a little closer. See that thick texture I left? I don't think I want that to be there. So I'm going to wipe some of the paint off my brush. I'm just gonna, and it might need a couple coats here because we're painting over a lot of dark colors. So I'm wiping some of this paint off. I was a little aggressive. And I'm spinning my brush on my plate. And I'm kind of wiping it off. But it's blending the colors together, which is great. See how much smoother that looks? So in this instance, you may want to let the paint dry a little bit before putting in a brighter color initially, which is okay with me because I'm going to take this paint that I just wiped off my brush and I'm going to come up here and I'm going to paint these leaves with this color. I was kind of going for an in-between between orange and yellow. And I didn't want it to be yellow as the sun because that's its own yellow. So I'm going to let that dry. I'm going to turn. And I'm going to come and paint this one. Again, it's a little patience. It's about you figuring out what you want to do. But all these coats, it's not a bad thing. It's not a bad thing. Artists typically do lots and lots of layers. Now this one was a little darker, so I should have, I guess it's sticking okay. I might need a couple extra layers on this one because it was a darker color back there. So we're basically doing a second coat on all of these, and then we'll do a third coat that's gonna have a little design to it. So I'm just rotating my canvas around. You can see all these leaves are changing color to be more orangey. That's what I wanted to do. I am gonna make them have a little bit more of a yellow tone. I'll probably mix yellow and white together for that final detailed work on top of these secondary leaves. We're also going to add some stem-like detail, like the veins of the leaves to the big ones too. You can use an ink pen, you can use anything you want. You can use a tiny brush, you could use the tip of this brush and do like little dark lines. Whatever you want is fine. I am going to take a little bit of white. Ooh, some of this white has blue on it. That's not a good thing. You definitely want to make sure that your blue and your yellows don't mix. Okay. So I'm mixing a little bit of yellow and white together just to see what happens. Kind of getting this lighter color. Just want to see what happens to see if this color will work for a nice blend. Now it's really light, so I might use my finger and just blend, like smudge it in to see what happens. Okay, I like that. You could just do a little bit of like a light, a little bit of a highlight maybe. I really want more bright yellow in these, so I'll probably add a little bit more bright yellow as well. But I'm just adding a little bit of a bright accent to some of these, which gives it kind of a moonlight glow. So I'm doing a small swipe and I'm smudging my finger, and the orange is still wet underneath, which is nice because it's helping blend it all in. I am going to take a little bit of yellow. I'm going to make sure some of this white's off my brush. And I want these to be a little bit more yellowy. So this is where you just have to kind of play it out. Make sure the paint is dry enough to be able to add another color. And if you have white on your brush and you don't want the white to be on your brush, then clean your brush. There, I really want these to be like have a punch. So I'm coming in with yellow and like more yellow. There we go. I'm finally getting there. But this is art. Like if you have a vision, if you have an idea, just like let it roll out. Let it see how it goes. Turn your canvas. We're going to give these leaves some veins, like a little bit more of the natural look, but we're just doing colors right now. And we're almost done colors. If you need more time, take your time. There is no rush. This class is for you. If you have any questions about this class, you're welcome to post them in the comments below. If you like this class, hit the like button below. We would love to see your support. All right. Maybe I'll add some clouds in the blue area. I'm going to let my leaves dry. If you need to add second coats of paint anywhere, you can consider that. I'm letting my leaves dry because I want to come in here with my eraser because these pencil lines are bothering me. So this one looks pretty dry right here. So I'm just going to come in my pencil. Make sure you touch before you come in with your eraser. You can, if you have pencil on top of a piece, like some paint, don't worry, it will still come off. Like if you put if you put pencil over your blue, don't worry, it will come off of the blue. Just give it a little bit of elbow. If it's not coming off the blue all the way, you can put a little bit of blue paint right there. Pesky pencil pencil lines, but I'm glad we did that. Here we go. I have some pencil lines on the black. Guess what? They're coming off the black. Perfect. I'm not going anywhere these orange leaves because those are still wet, but my red leaves are dry now. It's nice to know that you can use a pencil on top of paint and then it will come off. And I was using canvas paper today. Again, I'm staying away from my orange leaves for right now. I have some pencil. It's on my sun, so if you need to do like another coat on your sun, you can. I may do some clouds, ladies and gents, just because there's a lot of blue space for me. And I kind of want to do some like dainty, delicate clouds. I don't know how this is going to go, but I'm going to play with it. If anybody wants to add like little leaves, like kind of just tucked into certain places, you can do that too. I'll do a couple of those leaves after, but let me just see if I can put in a few tiny little floating clouds in the distance. Let's see here. And I'm going to manage how much paint is on the end of my brush. I like to roll my brush at the end. I'll bring this closer in just a minute. Let's just do... Guess what? If I don't like any of these clouds, I can paint right over them. Doesn't matter. But I'm doing some long and skinny clouds. They're kind of long and layering. You can see I'm kind of building them on one to another. Do one over here. That one's a little, it's leaning a little bit, so now I have to bring it down here a little bit. Let's see here. I kind of like it flat, so maybe this one will be kind of trailing off over here. Maybe it's going behind the sun, which is kind of interesting. And these are really light, so this cloud down here is a little bit leaning, so I can come in with my blue and kind of fix the bottom of that one a little bit. It's kind of on an angle, but it's easy to fix that. It's a little bit of a daytime scene over here. You don't need a lot. And if you paint something you don't like, it's okay. Now the tops of the clouds are a little whiter. And then we'll make the bottom sides a little bit darker. So I'm just taking a second coat on these clouds. Just doing a little bit of extra white just on the tops. This is a really cool cloud technique. A little bit of extra white on the top, just kind of an outline the top. Top half the cloud is a little whiter. Kind of second coat on the top only. And it makes the bottom kind of fade into the sky a little bit, which you're starting to see naturally. And I'm being loose with my hand. That is what is making these clouds look more natural. I'm being really loose with the form on the top. Have like a little bit of a long jet stream coming over. I love these clouds. I'm so glad I did them. I'm going to mix a little bit of light blue to kind of cover my boo-boo. So light blue is my eraser over here. So I'm mixing a light blue to cover my cloud that is misshaped. So if anybody does a cloud that you just don't like, guess what? You can paint right over it. Just like that. Okay, don't sweat it. You can paint over your clouds and you can fix them. Bring this a little closer for you to see. So that really made it look daytime, right? So I can make a choice as an artist if I want to tuck in any little leaves. Like I may not need to, right? Those are some choices you can make. I am going to do a nice, more full coat on my sun. So my sun is, I can see pencil, so that's bothering me. So I'm going to grab a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow. Mix those together for a minute. And I'm just going to do, I want the pencil lines to go away. So you just do a second coat until you can't see the pencil. See that? And my pencil lines just went away right there on the edge. And then once this dries, I can take my yellow and go put more yellow on top. Now it's not dry yet, so you can see I'm not getting that as bright, but I'm just doing a nice smooth coat. Again, if you have too much paint on your brush, you can wipe it off on your plate. You can turn your canvas if you're reshaping or filling in something, so just take your time. We reshaped our moon a little bit, if you recall. We haven't really touched our sun, so your sun can be any colors you want it to be. If you want it to be just a single color, you can have it be a single color. Turn your canvas. You are in the driver's seat. Use the edge of your brush for a nice clean edge. Okay. Now I really like the simplicity of the clouds and of the sky. If you wanted to add any more leaves to tie it all together, you could. Maybe you take a picture of where you're at now. And maybe I'll add a few more tiny leaves just so I can show you if you have not decided in your brain. I will be courageous and show you what those look like. Okay. So we know when you paint on top of black or blue, it needs to be a light color first. So I'm going to do little abstract leaves. I'm going to get most of this off my brush, and I'm going to go with that light orange. So I'm just mixing white and a little bit of orange just so it sticks. And I'm thinking about placement. So for me, I might just do like 1, 2, and 3, and that's it here. And I might do 1, 2, and 3, and that's it. So I might just do like a little tiny leaf, just kind of like floating here. I'll bring it closer. See, there's just like a little leaf right here, and it's light right now because I needed to paint over the blue. So there's a little tiny leaf. That's what I'm going for. So I'm going to turn my canvas. I'm going to do another one over here. I'm going to do another one right here. This is just to kind of like fill the space in a little bit, right? Just a couple of leaves drifting around. Okay, so I might do another one down here just to see what happens. And I'll make these a little bit more red and orange, but this is just like a little bit of a fill. Okay, see what I'm doing here? I'm gonna let those dry. I'm resisting right now from not painting them, but I'm gonna go to the black area. This might be scary to go over here, but just have a little courage. And you think about placement. So I want one here. So I made a little tiny dot. And I'm doing my best to just do a little leaf-like shape. with the tip of my brush. And it could be like a little star. I don't know. You're just going to have to see what happens here. Spin your brush and your paint. That does not look like a leaf. It looks like a star. So let's see if I can make it look like a leaf. A little bit bigger maybe. You kind of have to build out the fullness and then the point. Okay, we're going to call that a leaf. It doesn't really look like a leaf, but it's okay. But this is just going to be a small detail in the distance. So I'm going to put one more over here. I'm going to turn my canvas. And I'm going to put one more over here. And leaves have 5 points, and then like one's on the little, like a little one on the bottom. Okay. So I just have a couple leaves like tucked here and there. This is where you pause and you reflect. Do I like them? Do I want to change the positioning? I'm just going to add another little one down here just to balance the eye. I kind of have them all over. And then I'm going to come in with my orange. Spin and manage how much paint is on your brush. And I'm going to come and add a little bit more color to them. You could make these any color you want. I'm painting with the tip of my brush. These are just little bits of detail. I'm going to come in with a little bit of red, just a tiny touch. Again, I'm playing with the tiny bristles on the end of this brush. A little bit of red will make them stand out a little bit more, a little contrast. And you can see they're just tucked in ever so. So those are choices if you want to do that or not. I'm not opposed. I didn't do too many. I was very thoughtful to not do too many. Because I want to see the nighttime sky. I want to see the daytime sky. I don't want it to be too busy. It's an intention I've had through this whole class. Okay, so we're going to do, once you're done playing with that, we're almost done. We're going to do the stems for the plants, for the veins and stems, like outlining. So if you like the way yours looks, you don't have to do this, but I'm going to mix a little bit of red and black together, and I'm going to use a dark red for the red leaves, and I'm going to use a darker orange for the orangey leaves. So I'm going to take a scoop of the red right here. For sure, I'll put it up here. And a little bit of black. And I'm going to make a dark red color. Now you can decide how dark you want this to be. I don't think it needs to be that dark. Okay. You could also make a purple, like a dark purple if you wanted to. This is kind of like a dark cherry red color. And I'm going to spin the tip of my brush so it has a really fine point on it. And I'm going to do a thin line for the vein. There's 5 stems, 5 leaves per se. And you can do like little vein-like detail. I'll bring this a little closer. Up here at the top. We're doing similar techniques in our upcoming pumpkin latte class, which is really fun. We're doing leaves like this, but they're much bigger. But again, you want to have a nice fine point on your brush. I connect them all kind of in the center, down there like that. And check yourself, do I have a nice fine point? Yes, I do. So then you can alternate from one side of the leaf to the other to give it that final detail work. And then you can take your canvas and turn it. I still have wet paint here, so if you have wet paint, just go around it or come back. There's a lot of detail work we can do with these leaves. If you wanted to take a little bit of this and like underline like the bottom side of these leaves with a little bit of this darker color, you could do that. I'm just going to keep working my way around. You can see the detail for these leaves are starting to come to life. You can do as much or as little here as you wish. I like to show you lots of details for you to consider it, but there's no rush. If you happen to stick your finger in your paint like I did, try not to get that on your canvas. I'm going to do nice smooth brush strokes. Always get those basic veins in first, and then get a little bit more paint, spin that paint on the end of your brush, and go from the left to the right. So I'm alternating kind of like tree branches to create some final texture for these leaves. Oh, and I missed one. There's one at the top. I do want to outline these leaves with a little bit of an ink pen. If you don't want to use an ink pen, you could use this dark red to outline your leaves if you wanted to. That is totally up to you. If you like it the way it is, you don't need to do any outlining. Okay, so I'm going to bring this back, wipe my hand. Bring this a little closer. How fun is this? So different, very fall. And we're going to use a dark orange for these other leaves. So it's really just red and yellow mixed together. You just want it to stand out. And if you don't want to do like a dark color, you can just make it more subtle. So I'm going to do a little bit of a line there. And you don't have to do a lot of these veins, but it's totally up for your consideration. I may outline the side of this with a dark orange. Did you see that? I outlined the edge of the leaf with a darker color, same color. So I outlined an edge. I'm going to outline both sides just so it stands out. So you can see I outlined both edges there. It's up to you on how much or how little you want to do there. It's really up for your own taste and like what you want to do and how you want to do it. I like highlighting the edges, especially when they're overlapping down here. It's helpful to see what's going on. See, I'm adding just a little bit of detailed work. And I'm being really soft and subtle on these orange ones. Maybe outlining the edge. You can make some of those choices. If you think that's too much, you don't have to do that. Not sure if I like it or not yet, but I'm just gonna let it dry and make some decisions. For me, I like it to be really thin. And that wasn't, I could have had it a little thinner or even softer really. So it's like that soft detail that you don't want it to stand out too much. But those are all the choices that you can make. If something comes out a little too dark, you can always take like a little bit of white and a little bit of yellow, and you can kind of just touch up those areas. So like if I think this is too heavy, I can kind of paint over it a little bit. But you're just gonna have to, if you're gonna commit to painting over it, just playing with the colors so they match well. For me, the lines on this middle leaf were a little too heavy, so I just softened those a little bit. I brought in some light oranges and just kind of softened the red on top. Do the same with this one, okay? So you can kind of pick and choose what you want to do in that regard. But doing a little bit of an outline, you can decide how much or how little you want. Okay? So I hope that you've enjoyed today's class. I am going to do a little bit of outlining with my black ink as a final touch. But always pause. Take a picture of your work. I'm going to grab my black pen. And see how this next step goes. So if anybody's interested, you can buy these like 5 fine liner pens. I could even use red if the red would work. This has like all the colors, which is so fun. Let's see here. Maybe let's just see how the red works. Again, I love experimenting with you all. My pinky has a lot of ink on it, so I'm just checking that it's totally dry before I put my finger all over the canvas. Okay, I'm just gonna try outlining the top of this with a little bit of the red. So this red is not dark enough, so it's not working, so I'm gonna put that right away. I am going to take the black. I'm just going to see what the black does. I'll kind of try it in a little bit of a safer area first. Let's try it in here. Yeah, I think this is going to look neat. So I'm just going to kind of trace, and you could use a black ink pen if you don't have, you know, one of these fine ink pens like this. It's totally fine. But I'm just following the edge of my leaf, and you can kind of play with the detail here. I'll bring it a little closer so you can watch me. Try not to stick your fingers in your paint like me. Don't advise of it. But this is some fun detail I'm going to play with. You can see I'm just outlining it a little bit. I love this illustrative look. I just think it's so pretty. It's so subtle. If you have like a regular ballpoint pen, it will work as well. It'll probably be a little thicker, which is totally fine. I use those to outline often in these classes. But you can see down here, just a little bit of outlining is really quite pretty. And I'm just being really abstract. Maybe I outline that as well. Maybe I outline my leaves. You could certainly come in and do this with these little leaves right here. You could give these some little bit more life here, right? But you can see I did some outlining here. I could go around my sun. I'm going to rotate my canvas like this, and I'm going to complete this for each of my leaves. If you liked this video today, feel free to like this video, comment below with any questions. I hope you enjoyed this. I'm really excited to see how you've done. So if you'd like to send me an email with your final work, I always love seeing your final work. But I hope you were inspired today. by this super different inspiration to celebrate fall coming into our lives. This was so much fun. I absolutely loved this. I am so inspired by what we were able to create together today. Just rotating my canvas. I love the fact we can spin this one around, right? Isn't it liberating? If you are not a member or haven't checked out our Patreon space yet, be sure to do that. I'm posting lots of updates every week, Friday morning inspirations. I have live videos where I kind of just get on and talk a little bit about art, what's coming next. I always love getting your feedback on what we're going to paint next, etc. All right. So I'm going to look around, make sure I painted everywhere. If you wanted to do like an outline around your sun, you could consider that. I'm just doing a little bit of outlining for these little mini leaves. I'm calling them leaves. They're not really leaves, but they look like it, right? But I hope you all loved this. I had so much fun. I hope you did too. Thank you again for being here. If you have any questions, follow-up comments, feel free to post them in the comments. But I look forward to seeing your artwork and staying connected. Thank you all again. Cheers.